Hi, and welcome back to Microsoft Project, the full course. We're going to go through and actually look at Microsoft Project, get more familiar with the actual tool itself. And I have Microsoft Project open, and also have a magnifier so that we can actually look at it more in detail, and so you can see what I'm pointing at on the screen. So up top, you'll see a magnification, and I'll show that very soon. Here we go. And I'm going to go through some of the tabs here just to get yourself a little bit familiar with it. The first tab is the File tab, and in that tab it's just basically file saving and also file opening. So it's just a normal, how to open a file and save a file. We don't have to worry about that one too much. The main tab that you will be working in, and I work in most of the time, about 90% of the time, is the Task tab. And here you have various things dealing with the project and adding task. And the first one is nice that they have that in there is a view, so you can go through different views, and there's actually more views that you can actually add to it, so you can actually customize views and have more views within here. So this is just a little selector for going to different views. You can copy, paste, and you format your font, various selections common to all Microsoft applications. Then the schedule part, which is very important, that you will be covering that in terms of the updating the schedule, which is when you're going to update your percent complete linking. We're going to link task and also indent task and also break links and stuff like that. So we'll be working with this area as well, the schedule area. In terms of this task area, we'll have the manual scheduling, auto schedule. We'll talk about those, but one of the cool features I like to use is also this inspection tool. It inspects your task in terms of particular problems. So it's a pretty cool thing to click on when you have task and you want to know what's driving the task. So it's a really cool feature. I like this, what they have with Microsoft Project. You have the modes in terms of schedule mode, whether it's the actual mode is going to be automatically scheduled or not. So for the most part, we're not going to worry too much about that. We're going to keep things automatically scheduled, and I'll talk about that later. This is the insert functions for inserting a task, inserting a summary, or inserting a milestone. I sometimes use these functions, these buttons up here, but I prefer to manually type them in, and we'll show that how we manually type them in rather than going ahead and just clicking on these easy access buttons here. Information gives you a little bit more information about the task and provides you like a little dialog box that you can go through, and we'll show that as well about the task. So a lot of things here in terms of what you can do with task in this one. Notes, add notes to your task. So you can have little notes that you can have. They show it as yellow stickies, but it's actually just a note, and it's a little field. More details on the task, display the task details, and displays it in a task form. So this is a nice little feature as well, and we'll show that. It's really good. Scroll the task, move to an area on the screen, and also finding. So this is your finding functions and stuff like that, and also filling down little like editing functions. So that's it for the task tab, and that's very useful. I'm going to be using that most of the time. When you switch over to the resource tab, you'll see some things about resources. Again, the drop down for different views, and we'll be assigning resources using the resource pool. We'll be going through resources, and they show them as people here, and that's most of the time that they are people, but we'll also be talking about material resources later as well. So you can add resources and information about the resources, details, all leveling. Leveling function, a little discussion on that is just that the leveling function is when you want to level your resources when you have more hours allocated to a particular person or a resource than what you want than you actually have available. So that's what over allocation means, is that when you have too many hours associated with that person. So that's why you want to level, and they talk about leveling. So we'll be talking about that as well. The project tab, there's some things here. You're not going to be using too much of this because a lot of things here or other functions are probably not necessary. But you could add a sub project to your project file. That means that you can have an embedded project, a project that's embedded within the project. project information just provides a dialog box about the project. Create some custom fields, show some custom fields. You can actually add those in there. Links between projects. If you have two projects, Microsoft project files, you can link them, and we'll be showing that in a later section. WBS, it's not really a WBS work breakdown structure function. It's more just a numbering function. It's just basically numbering, and it numbers your task, and you can show that as well. And it's good for some sort of budgeting type of information, and we'll go through that. Working time, it's also kind of like a misnomer here. It's not really working time, it's more like a calendar. It's a calendar function, and looking at it in terms of when your people are going to be available and when you have days off. So we'll be showing that as well in the next section. Calculating project. Calculating project, if you don't have this set up as automatically calculating, when you update the task, you'll hit this button just to calculate how things changed. I don't use that function. I like to have things automatically change. But if you have a really large and complex schedule and you have interlinked within a sub-projects and all kinds of other things, you might not want to have it automatically calculating because it might crash. So you might just do something where you calculate it at a particular time. Set baseline. We'll talk about those baselines when we're going to be using baselines. Moving a project is when you actually say, I'm going to, instead of starting the project on April 1st, I'm going to start the project on May 1st. So you're going to now have a project starting on May 1st, and you move the whole project over. Status, we'll be talking about this. This is updating a project and status, and I'll get into more detail about that in the later section. And reports, common reports that are canned within Microsoft Project. They're not really, the best reports, but you can make your own reports out of that, and you can actually put them into Microsoft Excel and have better reports than what's actually out of Microsoft Project. I think they provide reports just so that you can have something that you can look at, but there are other better reports out there that you can make yourself. So views, the most important thing here, this just shows you the different views that you can actually click into. These particular, 3 areas right here are just basically, different views you can look at. The most important thing, I think, in this whole view is this filter function. Working with filters is going to be very important, and creating your own type of customized filters. So this section right here is very important for you in terms of your working with, and also the grouping function. Time scale. The zoom function, I rarely use these type of zoom functions. They're just zooming these dates over here. So instead of having the week here, April 3rd, you might have the month or the year. But I don't rarely use this type of time scale thing. I automatically will do something else to adjust the zoom, and I'll show that. Timeline, you'll have the timeline function shown, and that's this bar right here. This bar right here is a timeline, okay? It has a start and finish date on it. It's right here, it says timeline. So that's the timeline. If I unclick it, timeline goes away. It's not shown on the screen anymore. Click it, bring it back. Windows, new windows, and everything like that if you want to have another project showing. Okay, macros, you can have macros within Microsoft Project. Rarely ever use macros within Microsoft Project. Microsoft Project is already complex enough without adding more macros, but you can add macros to it if you wanted to. And the format one is basically just coloring and adding new type of little formats. Makes it look nice. Different types of lines that you want to have showing on the diagrams and everything, but it's mainly affecting a lot of times the right-hand portion of the Microsoft Project where the bars are showing. So that's what the format looks like. You can add a drawing. I don't add drawings, but it already has enough information with bars and names and everything else on the right-hand side that adding a drawing makes it more complex to look at. So that's it in terms of the ribbon. And from there, we're going to continue on with familiarizing you with the Microsoft Project. And next section, we'll be talking about setting up Microsoft Project. Thank you very much and see you there.